Hi people, today we're going to start our new tutorial series. We're going to use for this purpose Unity 3D. The first thing we have to do, if we haven't got it installed yet or downloaded, we've got to go to the unity3d.com webpage. On the download tab we will find the latest version to download this engine. We're going to start creating our new project, which would be a Flappy Bird kind game. Whenever you've got it installed, just go back to your screen and open up Unity. This window will prompt up and it will be the project wizard. On this project wizard we can find the latest project we've been working on, but we're going to create a new project. Hitting on the tab create new project, we will find the project location. When we browse through our folders and find the folder we want to use for this as a location for our project, we need to choose an empty folder, which I've already prepared here. It's going to be called Kinoko Bird. We select the folder and we'll set up the defaults for 2D because we're going to be creating a 2D project. The 2D project settings the setup will make us different changes inside the project itself to help us create the 2D project, and it will probably we'll see it throughout the creation of the game. Well, we'll create the project, then the Unity engine window will come up. First we can see the layout the Unity uses. This is the default layout for Unity. We can now choose different layouts. It can be a 2x3, we can use a 4 split, a tall, maybe a wide. I normally use a default layout, but I make some little changes. I'll put the game right here and I'll move this to gain some more space. Okay, now I'll tell you what the different windows are for. The inspector is going to show us the information about the different objects we have inside the hierarchy of the game. One of the first changes I can show you with the 2D setup is the projection type of the camera, which will be set to default as orthographic if it's a 2D setup for your project. Well, the transform component is the position of the game object inside the 3D world. The camera is positioned at the -10 in the Z, so it's further back. We can change the view to a 3D view inside the scene window by clicking on this 2D button. Here we can see the position of the game objects game objects actually have inside the 3D view or the 3D world. If we change this, it will move them in the world, but we will leave it as the default setting. Well, we'll go back to the 2D view of the scene and we will start creating the first steps of our game. Well, the project window is the window which where we can see the different assets we use for our game. We're going to create a new folder called GFX, or you can just use whatever name you want to use for it, but I'm going to use GFX to find my graphics. The games window is going to show us what the camera can see in this different aspect ratios. 16:10 and 16:9 is what the latest phones use for their landscape views. If we want to prompt it for if we want to use it for a horizontal view, no, a vertical view, sorry, for portrait, we're going to change the ratio to a 10:16, for example. Just flip it around using a new kind of view. We can use aspect ratio or we can use fixed resolution. I've used an aspect ratio, just switching around the numbers and getting this portrait view. This tab here, maximize on play, is going to make this happen. It's going to maximize the window of the game view whenever it starts, so we can see it in a bigger size. We're going to leave this switched off. This is going to show us the stats of our game. Inside the game, when we start it, it will show us the FPS ratio it has, the draw calls we will have, and say batching, for example. We're going to leave this off as well. Okay, now we're going to use these graphics I've been creating in Photoshop for the game. It's the same graphics we have actually Flappy Birds has, so it's actually copied. But we will use these graphics to create the game. Of course, this graphics is going to be used only for educational purpose, and we are not going to gain any funds with it. Well, now we're going to start importing our different assets. First, we're going to save this as a PNG. Okay, and we're going to save it in this ratio. Okay, it's okay. It's not gonna be a GIF. It's gonna be a PNG 24. Okay, save, and we'll save it onto our desktop. Now we'll bring it in to our project. We can just drag it into the project onto the GFX folder, or we can click. Oh. Okay, I did it. Or we can click with our right button and import new asset. Find the asset into your files and import it. Just clicking on the file and importing it. Now I'm going to show you how sprites work in Unity 3D. Sprites is the main texture type that Unity will apply onto our textures when we have the 2D default settings set for our project. Normally it comes in the texture type texture for the 3D projects, but we need the sprites. This must not be a single sprite. It has to be multiple, because it's a sprite sheet, like we can see here, and it has inside of one sprite the different sprites we want to use. So we will set the sprite mode to multiple and then go to the sprite editor. Okay, let me fix this. One sec. Okay, I'm back. For some reason Unity had imported the file wrong, so it's safer just to use the import new asset in place of dragging the stuff into the folder. Sorry for that. Now we'll go back and set this back to multiple. We'll go to the sprite editor, and here we can find our different sprites. If we click and drag the mouse over the sprites and create this this square around the sprite we want to use, or the texture location inside the sprite sheet, like this, we will create different sprites, and we could use this to create all of the sprites we want to use inside of our game. But there's a different way to do this. We can do this through an automatic slicer. We can use minimum sizes so we can separate the different sprites. I'll set this to 1 and hit slice. Now we can see that the different sprites have been sliced off of the sprite sheet. Even the numbers have been separated. No, most of them. Okay, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0 is not okay. Some of them will probably go wrong if you have them too close to each other. So the best way to fix this would be to do it manually. Okay, just 1 second. The 1 is okay, 2 is okay, 3 is okay, 4 is okay, 5 is okay. No 6. Okay, let's set 6 on our own. There we go. 7, no 7, okay. 7, 8, no 8. It's a 9 here, no 9s either. Okay. Well, we've got the 8 and the 10. Of course, we're going for no quality with this. We're just going for a fast development, so I can show you. You will probably want to do this more consciously about the graphics and actually do it the right way, taking your time and thinking about what different sprites you want to use. Okay, that would be our sprites. This would be the background for our game. We're gonna close this up to the border. There, that's okay. Top is okay, yeah. Pipes are pretty much okay. Yes, and the floor. This is the floor for our scene. The pipes are going to be the obstacles like it is in the actual Flappy Bird game. This will be our main character, and the different sprites, as you can see, actually create the transition of the flapping of his wings. We will use this to create the different the animation for the player. Now we hit apply, and it will transform our sprite sheet into different sprites inside. Now we can start dragging it into the scene to apply them for our game. Okay, I'm gonna modify the size of this sprite so we can use it in our game. There we go. Done. Well, there, that's okay. And we'll drag in the floor as well and modify the floor's size as well. There we go. Now we can simply duplicate these two sprites and move them over so they can tile. Looks like it's not actually seamless, so we're going to select the background on its own and make it. There we go. Okay, this would be the background and the floor for our game using a portrait view. As I told you before, hitting the maximize will show us the view in a bigger format. In the hierarchy, we can see the different objects inside our game. We're going to create a new empty object and call this background, so we can use it as a parent for our background sprites. Now we can import the 3 sprites that we're going to use for our player, and this will happen. It will prompt us this window to create a new animation. We'll call this flapping animation. Save. This will create us these 2 new objects inside of our folders for the assets. The first one is going to be the animation itself and the animator. The animator is what we're going to use to actually create the transition from the idle to the animation, or from one animation to another. In this game, we will not need. There is no need for these transitions, but we still need the animator for the animation to actually work. If you come up closer to the player, okay, 1 second. Ooh, I went wrong. We will see that he starts flapping when we start the game. That's because his animation is set to default for this animation in a looping time. Now let's go back to the bird. We'll call this bird graphics, and we'll put it into an empty object called player. This is the best way to treat the player, because we want to separate the the graphics from the actual logic for the game, and the logic will be applied into the player game object. Okay, we'll resize this back to what the size should be. There, that's okay. And we'll move it to the start of the scene, which would be here. Just to put in the center. Okay. Now the next step would be creating the first logic for the movement of the player. Whenever we get this movement done, we should start creating the different logic for the obstacle instantiation and the movement of the background. We will see this in the next tutorial, so hoping to see you there. Bye.